Hey there, aspiring guitarists. Today we're going to talk about taking an E minor practice chord a step further. Okay, let me turn on my fret light. When I do, it's going to make an E minor chord because that's the chord it defaults to show you it's on. And there's your E minor right there. It's showing the open strings up here. And up here, second fret, fifth string, fourth string. That's A and D because we know elephants and donkeys grow big ears. So what are the notes? Alright, pardon me while I bang the mic. Well, you can see right here the notes. Right there you got a B and you got an E below it and you got an E on top. So you got a B note, an E O, and then you have notes repeating as you come down the strings open. But that's not the purpose of the lesson. I want you to make the E minor. It doesn't matter if you make it with fingers 1 and 2 or if you make it with fingers 2 and 3. 1 and 2, 2 and 3. You know, that's kind of weird. It's kind of like doing that Vulcan thing where you have to make yourself do it. Now, why would you do that? We've covered that. If you're doing an E minor with 2 and 3, like I'm doing here, that might be to get quickly to a F bar chord. But if you're doing an E minor with 1 and 2, it might be simple to go to a G cowboy chord. So we've already covered that. You learn to play chords different ways for a reason. And very often, it's the chord that follows the way you've made it. To make the transition easier, to make the speed better, all kinds of reasons. But here's what I want you to do with the E minor that will teach you. First of all, it's going to give you some fun, but it's also going to teach you to move around the neck. So if I'm making an E minor up here, and I'm strumming all strings. There's my E minor. Okay? Move this shape. Those two fingers that you made it with. Move that shape down to the 5th fret. Now you probably notice when I slide down to the 5th fret, then I'm not strumming all the strings because it doesn't sound quite in harmony. I mean, it starts out and then it goes wonky, as it would. That's the reason we use bar chords. But, so what I do, well, when I've got my E minor up here on the 2nd fret, I strum all of them. But when I slide it down here to the 5th, I only strum the 6th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd string. We learned this with some other things too. We learned it with a D. Now, if you slide down here to the 5th and strum them all, you're going to get some dissonance and some despairing harmony there. So, you remember one of my previous lessons, we showed a cowboy C chord up here on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fret. The way that most everybody learns how to play is one of the hardest chords beginners learn. But remember, I also showed you, because we know the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, repeat, A. And remember why we told you to learn the 6th string and the 1st string, E, open, F, G, A, B. Here comes that natural half step to C. And remember, frets, half whole. One movement is a half step, two movements is a whole step. And E to F and B to C are natural half steps. So E, F, G, A, B. Here comes just a half step. C, because it's natural. Move to D, and then E, and then F would be a half step right next to it. So because I do that, remember, I had a lesson where I showed you the cowboy chord C, but that you could also make the partial F shape down here on the 8th fret. So how did I get there? Remember I said it was a partial F shape. So F's up here where it starts on the 1st fret and the 2nd fret. F, G, A, B, half step to C on the 8th fret. Why? Because I learned the E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E to the octave. Those things we tell you to learn. Remember, that was the video that I said that that's the one thing I will stop teaching a student. Now, I'm not trying to force music theory down their throat. They can make that choice further in their guitar journey, how deep they want to go. As I've said so many times, I know you're sick of it. Some people just want to learn 2 to 3 chords, play some song, and they're happy. And good for them. I hope their guitar journey is blessed, and it can be blessed at that. Different strokes for different folks. So, if I've got an E minor up here that we just talked about, if I move 1 fret, that's a half step, now it becomes an F minor, and then I move to a G minor. So I'm going from an E minor to a G minor. Play with that slide too. Maybe start the slide not strum. In other words, listen. Let's do it with a D. Okay, besides it just sounding cool, you're learning to move across the neck, across the fingerboard. Remember, the neck is here, the fingerboard's what's sitting on top of it. Neck, fingerboard. And of course you can't see real good because they're both black here, they're both a darker color. But understand that when you're practicing these chords, I know they get boring. I know your fingers haven't made the calluses like I have yet. I get that. We all, it comes with the territory. It's a badge of courage that, we all can feel for somebody. But make that E minor that's flashing right here again, make it do other things. You can do any kind of rhythm you want. It can be one strum, it can be... That's up to you. Make your chord practice something more than, even if you're struggling with getting the tone perfect and having to remember all the things about keeping your hand cupped and the thumb straight and things that you see other guitarists not doing while they're playing. But trust me, when we're fighting a chord and it's not ringing out correctly, then we go back to basics and technique. Yes, certainly there are times, like remember an E minor 7, and then I moved to an E minor 6. Well, that's hard to pull off, so I actually have to twist my wrist because of my hand problem to do that. but the basics still apply. Try to keep your thumb as straight as possible. Now I make a G7 chord that most people could make like that, kind of like raising up the C. A lot of times for speed, I'll hold down the first string, first fret, and I'll use the thumb up here on the sixth string, third fret. So sure, there's times when we deviate from having the thumb the way we want it, but the technique does matter. It does help you. And learning to do your E minor chord and then have a little fun with it, move it across the neck, shows you anchoring chords, progression, figuring out the musical alphabet, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. I mean, those little things matter. But try that. I think you'll enjoy that. Hope your guitar journey is blessed as always, and most of all, happy picking.